Okay. So heat loss guide, that's a week 12. We still have week 11. It's going to be about pollution. But I'm going to go over this book quickly until the steps we need to use to be able to use this book and do a heat loss calculation. So this book uses BTUs, British thermal units, for the final heat load. If you were to use cooling load, what would be the unit? Tons. And what is 1 ton?
12,000 BTUs.
12,000 BTUs.
In 12
So,
hours.
yeah.
So 24,000.
Yeah.
Hours.
Exactly. So,
So
what you
why does it go on a 12-hour period and not 24? You have no idea?
I have no idea. Maybe that's the cooling period you need during the day.
Okay. Oh yeah,
You're
yeah.
not gonna be
But that's how long it takes a ton of ice to melt.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So, again, the information used from this book, which means the material, specification, the U factor is going to be the same. You can use the same thing for cooling. However, this time you only factor out solar heat gain if you don't have shades and you don't have low emissivity windows, and if you have overcrowded living space. And light bulbs, we used to add them in the heating load, but not anymore because now everybody's using CFLs or LED, which are not really that much of a heat addition. So for now, we'll do the heating loss, and I'll take you through the guide and see how we use it. So usually we said the comfort level is 70, so we design our house to inside temperature at 70. We can put it at 75, especially if this is a hospital or what do they call? Assistant livings, and you might design for 75. You just have to keep in mind that if you design for 75, you're kind of overshooting the system a little bit. For bedrooms, we add 20%, and for bathrooms as well, we add I think 15%, and that to compensate for needed required temperature at that time. And if you look at the guide, really quickly, probably shows that here. If you look at the rooms in this big sheet, it will say add 20% for bathrooms. So if this room is a bathroom, you add 20% to the total you get, and also if it's a bedroom. For bedrooms, probably we need added heat because when you sleep, your metabolism goes down, and probably you need more heat. So it's really good to. The other thing about the bedrooms is when you're going to sleep, if the temperature is very hot, you're not going to be sleeping comfortably. So it should be around 70, 72, otherwise you'll be tossing and turning, so it's too hot. But once you fall asleep and your metabolism goes down, that's when you need a little bit of extra heat. So they have some smart actually thermostat that does that for you. But usually what we do is we compensate for extra heat, and also a lot of people just use a thicker blanket they can pull when they get cold. It's very important that when you sleep that you ensure that there's enough heat in the room, because if you go in a deep sleep and it gets too cold, all of a sudden some people do not wake up. So you'll be asleep, you don't know, and metabolism goes down slowly, eventually you just never wake up. And this happens to a lot of people who go camping in the snow, fishing in the snow, or ski lodges and stuff. So you don't feel it, but your metabolism goes really down, your heart slows down, and you might, if it's not warm enough, you might just like keep going and sleep. So be careful. That's why I say also add 20%, just in case you have compensated heat, if it's too cold. Just for that reason, you need extra 20%. And this book does losses through transmission and infiltration. Infiltration losses are given as a factor based on some wind and the number of openings in each room. And the goal of this book, of us doing all this calculation, is we want less cycling as possible. We said cycling is bad, it wastes energy. Why? Example, I have steam, so every time I go for heat, the water has to come up, the heat has to come up, heat the water, turn to steam, it takes half an hour, then it gives me a little bit of steam, too much steam, the room gets over hot, cut off the system, the heat that are used to heat the water in the system is all going to be gone. that's a waste. I have to start again from zero next time I have the cycle coming up. So that's not really desirable. For AC, it's the same thing. All the inertia is gone, all the air in the ductile has to be cooled. So ideally, you want the AC to turn on and the compressor will be turned on and stays on for 12 hours when you need the cooling. Less cycling equal less energy loss. I will say also about motors. Every time you engage the motor, engage the compressor, there's a spike in electricity because it takes a lot of energy. So we want less cycling. I remember when we were doing like cooling analysis in undergrad, they said if you can match the AC to be turning on the whole time, you did a good job. So if you have, for example, an apartment, if you have one window AC that you can keep on 24/7 the entire summer to cool the entire apartment, you did a good job because that will be more saving than to have 3 ACs in the same time turning on and off. So you can balance to have good distribution, and the compressor will be on the entire season without stopping with to compensate for the cooling. The only time you need the system to overwork a little bit is when you start from zero, from the initial temperature, which will be in one case it will be in the summer it will be like 120. You have to cool off from 120 all the way to 70. But once you are at 70, you have to maintain that, and the maintenance is only whatever you're leaking. If you're not leaking a lot, nobody's going in and out all the time, probably it's going to be good temperature. Same with the fridge. The only time we need the compressor to work is when you open the door and look at the food for half an hour, then put it back again. Then it starts kicking up again. So this cycling, H22 uses actual information because the American Society for Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, so they do this calculations and give you a number. So us do not have to worry about the math behind it and just plug in the numbers. And again, if you go to the website, probably you have updated information and updated numbers as well. We talked about outdoor design conditions. That's where we go and find out the city. What is the maximum wind speed? Make sure it's within 25 miles per hour, because that's what windows and doors are rated and tested on. Anything more than that, probably you have to change some numbers. And also we want to look at the temperature. And again, we said even in the same state, each town has different temperature depending on what the body of water you're next to, the elevation, the wind, the trees. So every town is different. We said Boston is around like 10 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest day of the year. Meanwhile, Springfield is 0. Boston had the advantage being near the ocean. The ocean balances the air. But Springfield does have some bodies of water, but it's just a little different. Elevation also does have big influence. Design temperature difference, it's all in the tables. So we get the DTD, which is design temperature difference, basically what's inside, subtracted from the outside. So for us here, if we want to design for 70, and winter is 0, that's 70 degrees in the winter is our design temperature. So we can look online for recent changes. Probably did not change by much, 1 or 2 degrees, but that's considered a lot in the last 10 years. It said the Earth global temperature has changed by 2 degrees last year, which makes a difference. However, it's good for us, it's good for business. More heating and cooling required. We talked about this little equation here, which you find on page 60. 63, and every one of those little numbers is calculated. This is the heating load of your house, 24 hours, degree days. This is the big number you find from the table next to the coldest day temperature. Correction factor, that's the table in page 62. AFUS, annual fuel usage, and that's a label on the burner. Q is the heat quantity in the fuel that you're using, and design temperature difference. So all these are available in the book, what they mean. And the purpose of this equation, if you need to use it, is to estimate how much fuel you are going to store in the house. Ideally, we want to fill the tank once a year. So that will estimate how much of a tank you should get. People try to get smaller tanks because they're cheaper. bigger tanks are more expensive, so if you want to make a good investment, get a tank that will last you for the entire season, so you don't have to go back and forth. Depending on when you finish the tank, it could be more expensive to deliver the oil in the middle of the season, especially in the middle of the storm. And people have a lot of backlog, and sometimes they will say, "We're sorry, we cannot come because we have a lot of backlog." I know, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they had a lot of they had a really tough winter, and people couldn't keep up. People always underestimate how much they need. They have a small tank. Yeah, we have a quarter. I'll wait to fill it. And it turns out to be a very, very cold month. The heat is on the whole time, and you can't get oil. And it's your responsibility, not the oil company. It's up to you to fill it up. And again, some houses, they have heat pumps now. You can depend on heat pumps, but you always want some auxiliary heating for emergencies. You should always have a boiler for emergencies, or a furnace. And some thermostat actually, they do have a setting for emergency heating. Just in case it got too cold, the system could not keep up, something happened in the system, you have some emergency heating source. Again, you don't want to freeze water in the pipes, that's really costly repair. It's annoying in the very unfortunate time. It's cold, nobody's available, and again, you have a huge leak in your area, it's going to turn into ice. Unless you want to play hockey in your kitchen, you don't want that in there. So again, preparation is very important. And again, people always delay this kind of preventive maintenance to the last minute. I'm one of them, you know. I was okay. I'll wait a little bit, see how much I can melt it, you know. But when it happens, you regret it all the time. We talk about water freezing. You don't want that to happen. Availability of oil, that's another issue. Availability of fuel. So you want to estimate how much you want to have and have that amount ready for you. Check Appendix C, which is here, and that has all the information you need about to know how big of a tank is needed. For our calculation, we only need the design temperature difference, which is the coldest day of the year, and we count that for our calculation. Step 2, we get the room dimensions to the nearest 1/4 of a foot, which is 3 inches. 1 foot is 12 inches, so anything up to 3 inches is 1/4 of a foot. So if we have 10 feet and 4 inches, that's 10.25, which always confuses me, but you get used to it for a while. And if you, when in doubt, always overshoot a little bit. It's better than to underestimate. Height, length, and width. Exposed walls to the area that loses heat. So we think again of our major equation when we do that. Keep that in mind. And actually, that was one of the questions in the exam. They were saying, if the next room is the same temperature, what will be the heat loss? And the answer will be 0. It's not actually 0, but close enough to 0. So we go to loss, U factor times area times temperature difference. If we have 0 here, this is 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is what? 0. So we have no heat loss. So keep that in mind. Would you lose the same temperature to your garage than to your wall? Probably not, because the outside wall has more air movement, unlike the garage. But we still consider the garage as outside area, regardless of the other factors. Because the temperature in the garage will be almost the same as the outside. Question?
So when you say garage, to do your calculations, you're doing the wall between the garage and if it's an attached garage.
Yeah.
The wall and the garage,
Yeah.
right?
He's considered the outside. Some people heat their garages. I have no idea why, unless you're doing some work. But some people have optional heating garage, but it's not all the time. If you want to do like some work in your car or whatever, they have heated garage, and some people have a small heater for the garage, but I know some people have heated garage because they want to go into the car and the car is warm. Yeah. God forbid you just wait a little bit for the heater to work. You know? Huh? I know. I mean, you know, it's like tough. You can hold the steering wheel and it's really cold, you know. Gloves are $5. You can't buy gloves or something to deal with it. You know, idling the car in Europe is illegal. In Germany, it's fine to idle your car. The car shuts itself in the traffic light by law. By law. So, and you know how much they saved? They saved 30% of the fuel consumption. Can you imagine? Just by not idling anymore. And you see people here sitting. Huh?
Turn the car off?
Yeah. Not stoplight, in the traffic light. If it's, it will wait for 5 seconds and shut off the car. Then you just hit the gas and the whole thing goes. So it's like the system is very quick. You don't have to even care about it. But and the radio is on, everything is on. Even the AC is on because it still have some heat. But the engine is off. So that minute makes a difference all the time. And it doesn't have to inconvenience you. The key's still there. You just like you lift your foot from the gas and the car shuts off. You hit the gas and you go again. I went to the car that I was freaking out. What's going on? Well, the car broke. Then when he told me about that piece of information, I was like, I thought I broke the car or something. And it was a stick shifter. I thought it was me. I'm hitting the clutch. I don't know what happened. So it freaked me out. But the terminal is the law. All the cars cannot idle, which I find great because people here idle their cars all the time, and you don't understand how much gas you lose out of that, and you're only using the heat. So those little things make a difference, huh?
And the pollution.
Yeah, it's a lot of pollution. But anyways, we'll stay away from that. Section area. This is the example. They have a worked example in the book, which is actually very, very nice. If you follow that example, you will understand how this is done. So we do not heat areas in the middle because these are surrounded by heated areas, so we do not include them at all. It's going to be a little bit colder than others, but it's still not heated. And the rationale is, if you're gonna heat this section with only one zone, you're probably gonna put your thermostat here, to those 2 rooms. So until it gets to 65 here, probably it's around 67 in here, in these rooms. So you probably have two zones. In my opinion, I'll make this house with 2 zones. One zone, this one zone, will have its own thermostat, and another thermostat over here, or maybe even over here. So we'll talk about that a lot next semester. How do we decide on what kind of loops do we have, what kind of zones do we have? But for now, these are the rooms. Firstly, we label the rooms, and we find the factors, and we make up the walls, see what the walls are made of. Most likely, the walls are made of the same material from the outside. You just find out. If you go to a house and they don't know what the walls are made of, you can go and investigate. Probably going to be all the same. You can drill a hole or open one of the sockets, and you can see through the walls and know if it's insulated or not. How thick is the gypsum board? What's in the outside? Carlos, how much does it cost to put the sheeting from the outside?
Siding,
Yeah, siding.
it's $175 to take off the square.
Square?
And $175 to put on a square.
What do you mean
10
square?
by 10.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
And the roof is $225.
So siding are very, very important. Some of them come with insulation. I like those one. They have some kind of foam to them,
Expensive.
but they make a big difference. Big difference. And some of them are very sealed, so even if wind comes in, it will kind of prevent infiltration to the wall. I saw some aluminum siding I was interested in. It was very expensive. It was $150 for a yard, which is 3 feet by 3 feet.
Business card.
Huh? But those were very thick. They were very thick. You didn't even need glass or anything. Very thick and have foam in them, built-in foam. And they are very reflective. They're very good for hot areas.
What's the downside to those big thick ones?
What?
That when you gotta redo all the trim in your house, because now you built it out so far that it overlaps the trim in your house.
Okay.
All your windows, all your.
What about the
windows.
the cave houses with the wood?
Cedars.
Yeah,
Siding?
yeah.
That's good. Cedars
It looks
is better.
nice, but
Very expensive.
really, how much is that?
Well, cedars are kind of a wood that the oils repel all kinds of
Oh.
bugs and termites and everything, so like that. But you're looking at, you know, a hundred, 10 by 10, it's like, materials alone are probably $300.
Wow. The exterior is very expensive. What about stone?
I don't know, I don't do it.
You wonder why people make those choices. Why some of them have the plasticky ones, which I really hate, the yellow plastic ones. And you can go with the wood siding, but they do the job at the end.
Vinyl's final,
Yeah, vinyl. I hate vinyl.
until you get grandkids throwing rocks at it.
Yeah. That's good. Infiltration, big losses. So mostly with infiltration, we care about the opening for the windows and doors, because no matter how much you try, they will have some kind of infiltration, and sometimes we count on it for the house to breathe. But either way, you can look at the book and it will give you an infiltration rate that you can use for the infiltration equation for this one, which will be Q infiltration equal the factor times volume times delta T. So this time we have volume, the volume of the room, and we have the factor, in which the factor takes a lot of calculation to get to. It's not like we did before with the 0.018 and the heat capacity of air and the volume. The factor takes everything into consideration. But now it takes the volume of the room and how much air are we exchanging with the outside based on that volume. Factor, volume, D. No exposed wall, no opening, no infiltration, period. Especially if you have the floors sealed with the walls. Sometimes you get a lot of leakage between the walls or between the wall and the bottom, and the floor.
You get a lot of leakage if you have someone doing that money taking job too.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen with houses before,
Yeah.
because the guy's like, oh, I know how to mud intake, he goes and does it, it's just a terrible
Yeah.
job, next thing you know, you all these cracks.
Yeah. And a lot of things they seem to be functioning in the beginning, but after a few months or sometimes less than a year, we got leakage all over the place. And there's so many factors to consider here: heat, dust, trees, insects, vermin, whatever. There's always something. I used to live in a house with a lot of mice living in the ceiling. I don't know whether the mice or chipmunks. I think chipmunks were living in the ceiling, and they were living in my car too. They were having a party in my car. I had a big Lincoln at that time, and they all bring food and bring it into the car. So my whole air intake is full of cake and bread and walnuts, acorns. It's like, okay, that's really interesting. So you turn the car and like everything. They love big cars, and because it's hot and they have a lot of cavities, they go and live there. So this is going to be our calculation sheet, and I have an Excel that resembles the same calculation. So you put your dimension for each room, you label the room, put your temperature difference, and it should populate all those spaces for you. If not, you just do it by hand, one by one. Then you add it up for the entire heat loss for the room. And if you notice this, take the filtration. This is for a ceiling. Let's talk a little bit about ceiling. So if the floor on top of you is heated, do you consider the ceiling? No. So there's no heat loss to the ceiling. If it's an unheated attic, you will consider the ceiling. Floor, same concept. Those are going to be the same area, and depend whether it's heated or unheated. Slab is different. What's different about slab?
Concrete.
It's concrete. So the connection between the concrete and the wall usually is considered an opening. So if you have slab, you will calculate the perimeter. Notice it's not area anymore, just the perimeter, which is the outside. And that was a question in the heat analysis. They ask you to calculate the perimeter. And they put the area there just to confuse you. So is the perimeter to the outside. And the factor, you find out from the book as well for slab and the floors. And they tell you even the table in the section where you find the slab. We get the factor. And that will be heat loss if you have slab. Usually you'll have that in the basement. It's going to be slab. And if you're going to heat it, you probably have to consider that. Windows and doors, we know the tables, table 3, section 4 to 9, and here are the factors. I will fill those one by one. This space is only one room, and I made a big one for each room. And there's also an Excel sheet which you can fill and print and keep with you for future projects, which is next semester. You'll need that. And also for if you have a job one day. If you are familiar with this, you keep it with you one day, a few years from now, keep it somewhere. If you need it, it's there. And people really pay good money for this. I did one project this summer for a house in Springfield. It took me like 2 hours. It was good money.
How much you got paid?
Huh?
How much was it?
I did it voluntarily, but I could have charged a lot of money.
Yeah, about $500 or $600.
Yeah, at least. But
500 or 600 is like a homeless.
I did it for a favor. And one day I will ask in return. Tony will understand. Sorry, I watched The Godfather this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's been on all week.
Yeah. So step 5, the total heat loss for the house. Use the information to size the boiler. We did the 20%. So at the end, we have all our heat loss. We add 15% to the entire house. Why? So what we size is basically the amount of heat required to keep the house hot based on the heat loss. What if the house is starting from really 0? We're not just keeping, we're not doing, we have to start from the beginning. We're not at 70 yet. So this is considering the house is at 70 and the outside is 0. What if we are at 0 and want to go to 70? So we add 15% for that. And also for colder days. So you add 15% for that case, and probably it will take you a little bit to heat it up. That's actually the final boiler size. Question?
Does that also work with a heat pump then? If you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
15%
You have
on
to.
top of the
Yeah,
heat pump?
yeah, you have to. Otherwise, it's not gonna heat up in cold days. It will work fine until you get there, but one day the system goes out, you go on vacation, you put it down, you come back, it takes forever to come back to the actual heat, and you might overwork the system a little bit. So that's how you size the boiler. Ceilings. A good note here. We try. What if you have a ceiling and the top is different? One of them is heated, one is unheated. So we only going to take this portion over here, which is unheated. If you consider that, probably you might oversize your boiler. And it's a good idea to list all your assumptions in case it change. You give somebody a project and say, this is what I assumed based on what you told me. You add a room or expansion and then you come and tell me that this didn't work. I told you about it. So make it as legible as possible and make people understand what they're paying for. And again, people always tend to say, okay, I'll get the bigger one and that's it. Explain to them that getting the bigger boiler is not always a good idea. So get a reasonable boiler. There are some boilers where you can actually add more heat to it in the future, but the boiler has a capacity to add more burners in it, especially if you have gas. They put 2 manifolds or 3 manifolds and increase the heat, but you don't have to spend too much money into cycling. So think about that. And there are, now they have so many options, it's really amazing. So many options and so many efficiencies, and people are starting to look into those high efficiency boilers. If you know how to sell the idea of high efficiency boilers reasonably, people will know how much they will save. And the condensing boilers are not that expensive anymore. People shy away from the initial expense or change. I don't want to change the old boilers. But if they stay in a house for 5 years with a simple calculation, you can tell them how much they're going to save in that house. Yeah, it will be a good idea. However, until it becomes a law, people do not care. Why? If anybody in the real estate business, the homeowner does not care because the renter is paying for the heat, and the renter does not care because he does not going to put in equipment for the homeowner. So it becomes kind of a non-interesting thing
Well,
for the
there's
person.
incentives, as a landlord, there's incentives, like.
There are
mass
incentives,
save.
but people do not want to change. People are really resistant to change. For example, I was asking one of my friends, there is a rebate on the Nest thermostat, $60. So it's $150. They pay you $60 to put a Nest thermostat. People just don't want it. Why? It's pain to put, and it's too much information, and this and that. I mean, granted, maybe it's maybe invasion of privacy or something, but They're giving you incentive, which is good because after a while you'll save a lot of money. Yes, there are cheaper thermostats that will do the scheduling for you, but it's not as good as the Nest, because the Nest will always optimize hours you don't have.
It's on sale on Home Depot
Yeah.
today for $80.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Black Friday sale.
Why do we still use wood to build houses instead of like recycled plastic planks?
Wood is natural, man, and it's available, and it's
Yeah,
abundant.
I mean, it's deforestation, all that stuff, you got all this garbage plastic, why not make the planks out of like plastic?
People are doing that somehow, but
They're called LVL.
it takes more money to recycle plastic.
They're making, they're.
And wood is natural material that's renewable. And
Burn the last one.
It does burn.
It does.
foresting,
Wood can burn.
cutting wood actually is not a bad thing as long as you do it responsibly. The forest will regenerate itself. Yeah, but you have to do it responsibly. Tables. Okay, let's talk about it for 5 more minutes. Floors, wood floors, overexposed area, crawl spaces if it's ventilated. If you have a crawl space, which is a lot of new houses have crawl spaces, they don't have basements, it's cheaper. You have to consider it unheated, especially if it's vented. If you're going through it, then you have to consider as cold space. Or if it's not heated at all, it's going to be colder.
Yeah, but most new houses with 2-foot crawl spaces
Yeah.
are heated.
Yeah.
They heat this, they heat that.
For the waters, yeah, because air will blow through it and cool the water
Keeps
very
the
much.
house warmer.
So most codes call for floors to be insulated for new construction. Floor has to be insulated in the bottom because again, there is so many things we'll talk about next week. Gases, radon gases, a lot of issues that can creep up to your floor and
Isn't it a good idea to heat your basement sometimes if you don't want the pipes to freeze up in the
Yeah.
summertime?
yeah. For freezing the pipe, there's so many solutions for that. But you can heat it a little bit.
They
Yeah.
insulate.
Yeah. Keep the water running, circulating. You can put a pump that circulates the water. Water that circulates does not, yeah, small drip or something that will prevent it from freezing. Floors also, type of floors. Windows. So if we look at the all sort of wood floors over here, wood is a good material. It has good insulating properties. It looks nice. It's warm to walk
Yeah,
on.
the lumber we get now is nothing compared to back in the day.
But still, if you pay enough money, you can get good stuff. They have bamboo and stuff. So why does it make a difference when you have carpet and rubber and padding?
He's talking about framing side.
That's more insulation, right?
I hate
So,
all like this about it.
Consider that, and it adds more UV value. Look at the value of carpet and rubber pad. The U factor is very small compared to just plain wood. Even though wood is insulated, still it's not as good as carpet and padding.
Can't clean it good. You can't
Carpet.
clean it good enough.
Carpet is gross.
It is gross.
It is gross. Because if you don't, you're supposed to like steam it every year. You're supposed to vacuum it. Nobody vacuums every day. And nobody cleans the carpet, and it just collects a lot of crap in it over time. Especially in New England where you have a lot of pollen in the air. Guess where all this pollen is? It's in your carpet. If you have pets, that's really completely gross. You start thinking about it, just creepy. So you're better off just having hardwood. And especially if you have pet, if you're not gonna clean as much, hardwood is the way to go. Ceramic tiles are good. Sometimes even slab is better. At least, and you can put slab. You can put some air rugs. At least you can fold and take it to somebody to wash it completely for you. But it all depends, and it all plays play a part in heating and cooling. The other thing I want to talk about for flooring is if you're going to use radiant floor heating, you might not want to put carpet. So the floor is going to be your source of heat. You keep the floor at 80 degrees, and that should be enough to heat the entire house. It will be also comfortable to walk on. Windows and tables, depending on we talked about that in chapter 4, and we said it has a lot to do with the frames. We don't have a lot of metal frames anymore, even though aluminum is more reliable or more convenient. We rely on vinyl now, or sometimes insulated metal because of the conductive properties. So you'll conduct through the glass and also through the frames the most. So let's have the conductivity for all those windows. And as you see, it gets lower with double glass, 1.7, low emissions. Triple glass actually is very good. I never seen that yet, but there is triple glass. And what else? What are these windows? Jalawezi windows. Anybody knows? What the words are? Whatever that word's pronounced.
Jealousy.
Yeah.
Jalusi.
Windows that are like
Yeah.
louvers.
Miami windows.
What does it look like?
They look
Louver,
like louvers.
Okay.
Miami windows.
Dagger on top of
Oh, okay.
Caribbean windows.
And they open.
Jealousy. Okay. Interesting. And skylights as well. Skylights are becoming very popular now. But again, if you don't do it right, if you want a skylight, you better spend the money and get it insulated.
Professional.
Yeah, because I did live in a house where there was skylights, and the top floor was so hot. It was 120, even though it was outside it was 80, because the sun is hitting the third floor. So I had to go there and cover it with cardboard.
They have skylights now, dude. They're all battery operated.
Yeah,
You hit a button, they're all motorized, they're moving automatic. They have the shades that go in between the glass.
yeah. If you want to do it properly, just don't do it, because that's gonna be a big source of heat for you in the summertime.
Which you could use that.
Yeah, in the winter. All right, I'll stop now. I'll finish next class.